Hey, what's up guys and gals? My name is Rick9G. Welcome to my third annual Halloween special. I'm so excited to talk about all these really fun videos about movies, classic TV shows, and movies that you absolutely enjoy. Now, this theme for this year is going to be Sequel-a-thon. So we're basically going to have a sequel fest looking at famous sequels to famous classic movies, and we're going to begin with Invasion of the Body Snatchers. If you want to look at the original, I did cover it a couple years ago, so make sure to look the top link in the description. You can check it out. But this is the remake, or we can even say the sequel. I would say the sequel. I would argue it's a sequel with Donald Sutherland, Leonard Nimoy, Veronica Cartwright. So many good actors in this movie. It is such a good one. Let's take a look at it. Now, I don't know about you, but yes, I'm going to have to spoil both of these movies, unfortunately, and they're so good. They're so good. So just letting you know, for this one of my favorite things about the movie, it actually sealed the deal for this movie, was the appearance of Kevin McCarthy. If you remember, Kevin McCarthy was the star of the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and in this one, we get to see an older self of him saying, "Oh no, you're next," and so forth. He runs into the main characters kind of in the first quarter of the movie. He's playing quote-unquote the running man. So a lot of people argue that it's not a sequel because it's not the same man. I mean, I would argue differently. He is the man that's running. He's unidentified, but I mean, who is he? He's of course the guy from the first movie. How could you not argue that he isn't? And I don't know why people are even trying to say that it is not him or that it is not the same character. Of course it is. I mean, that's what makes it so amazing. Why else would they have the same actor? They could have gotten anyone else and just say that he's the running man. Well, no, it's the same character from the first movie. If you look at the beginning of the movie, you see this creepy scene where there's a woman with children, and there's this alleged priest that is swinging on swings with kids. And he has this creepy stare, you know. It is essentially, we're clued in, if you saw the first movie, this is a pod person. No, that man is a famous actor, Robert Duvall. And he had worked very similarly, or in a similar area in San Francisco where he was filming something else. They were able to get him, and he shot this scene for free. And he plays this crazy priest, I mean, staring at them. We know he's a pod person. We know that he has been taken over. And it's really good foreshadowing to what's going to happen in the movie. Did you notice him, that he was actually playing this priest? It was a quick cameo. Now, the director of the movie, Philip Kaufman, said that they paid Robert Duvall nothing, but they did give him an Eddie Bauer jacket. Supposedly, that was his payment for the movie. Now, of course, I can't forget that Jeff Goldblum was in this movie, as well as I mentioned Leonard Nimoy. We have Donald Sutherland. Well, Brooke Addams, Jeff Goldblum, and Leonard Nimoy were each paid $25,000 for their role. Of course, $25,000 in 1978 when the movie came out. Donald Sutherland, on the other hand, was paid somewhere around $200,000 and $300,000 for this movie, which is 10 times what the other actors were paid. And I mean, one could even argue that Leonard Nimoy was a bigger powerhouse actor at the time, but yeah, he wasn't the main guy, and so he didn't get paid as much. Now, speaking of Leonard Nimoy, who played Dr. David Kibner, he had a leather half-glove that he used in this movie. Now, it was deliberate, and the only reason why he used it, the sole purpose, was making the character more distinctive and recognizable. I don't know about you, but Leonard Nimoy is very recognizable, but he wanted to be sure that you would subconsciously, or unconsciously, I guess, remember that he had that glove on and remember him as that character, and he got the idea from a friend of his who wore it to cover a burn on his hand. I don't know how many of you noticed, but the taxi driver in this movie is Don Siegel. Now, Don Siegel, if you don't know, he was an American film and television director and producer. He was the man who directed the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, as well as 5 films that had Clint Eastwood in it, including Dirty Harry. He also directed Escape from Alcatraz and directed the last film that John Wayne made called The Shootist. So he was a big head honcho driving that taxi cab. Now, the actors Donald Sutherland and Brooke Addams, they were really nervous in this scene of the movie. Why? Well, Don Siegel had lost a lot of his vision in real life. And as he was driving through the streets of dark San Francisco without his glasses, it was a really, truly harrowing ride. Now, I'm sure you remember that there were scenes where the pod people that were beginning to grow and germinate, it was pretty creepy, right? And there was a sound that was used for the pods of a heartbeat. Now, that sound actually came from the ultrasound recording of the sound director Ben Burtt's pregnant wife. Now, the pod itself screams were recorded from pig squeals, interestingly enough, and the natural diegetic sounds of the crickets, birds chirping, they begin to fade as the film progresses, and only until the mechanical sounds of sirens and garbage trucks are heard, it turns into that. So if you don't notice, the sound in this film is really interesting, and it is dependent on the pod's evolution, and I think that is really, really cool. I don't know if you knew this, but Donald Sutherland is most likely a really, really bad runner. Well, how do I know this? Well, Brooke Addams actually challenged Donald Sutherland to a foot race when they were filming the scene, one of the chase scenes in the movie. Now, Philip Kaufman had them both running, and he yelled, "Cut!" And they just kept going because they had decided amongst themselves that no matter what, they were going to race each other. Well, Brooke Addams actually won that race. Remember, she had a dress and high heels and still won. I don't know what was wrong with Donald Sutherland there. I mean, maybe by the time this was filmed, he was already a pod person. Now, the term pod people, pod person, it became a catchphrase because of this movie and because of the original in the 1950s. But the phrase is never actually used by any of the characters in any of the invasion movies. So it seems like something that people just coined after watching them. Well, if you didn't know, a lot of movies and TV shows use fake telephone numbers so that you don't actually call these numbers and end up bothering the people behind the phone. Well, in fact, if you pay attention to the movie and you look at the telephone number for the DeSoto Cab Company, the number is actually real. It was 415 area code 673-1414. And that's their actual phone number. It wasn't changed. And if you call them, it's the DeSoto Cab Company. Now, a little bit of spoilers here. The climax for the scene where Donald Sutherland goes into the factory and begins destroying everything, lights everything on fire. Well, the actor, Donald, insisted on performing all of his own stunts during this climax. Now, his scenes at this quote-unquote pod factory, they were filmed without any type of safety equipment, nets, or harnesses. And now there was a shot where there was a fireball erupting from the factory, and Sutherland barely missed that fireball. And an extra missed his cue during this explosion, and he was seriously injured from the explosion, but Donald Sutherland was totally okay. Now, the night after they released this movie, someone, as a practical joke, put out pods outside, similar to those that were found in the movie, and they put them all over, kind of sprinkled them all over the streets of Los Angeles. People actually freaked out. They actually called the police and said that this was happening in real life. And it was, of course, amazing to think that because of the movie, it inspired people to think and freak out that they were being invaded. Now, finally, I love this piece of information. I had to share it with you. Now, because of the big ending, the big ending where, in fact, contrary to the original movie, the main character, he escaped. He was able to be fine and not become a pod person. However, Donald Sutherland did get absorbed. He became a pod person because we see that final scene where he just goes "Rah!" and screams, right? So the ending of the film, only 3 people knew the true ending of the film. That is Philip Kaufman, the director, W.D. Richter, and Donald Sutherland himself. They knew how it was going to end. But Veronica Cartwright, who was in the movie, and the others, they were not told that Sutherland's character had been captured and eventually became one of the alien pod people. Now, when they filmed the ending in front of the San Francisco City Hall, and Sutherland pointed to her while he was filming, just as the scene took place, he was imitating the pod scream. Her reaction of cold fear is real. She was super scared. Now, Kaufman chose not to shoot the alternate ending which they had, which to say that, no, he was okay, he escaped, because he didn't want to give the studio an opportunity to re-edit the film and make that the final scene. So he wanted to leave it just like this. I think that's pretty awesome. I think that is pretty amazing, and I wanted to bring all this information to you in this first video of this Halloween special. If you enjoy this movie, if you enjoy more of these videos, stay tuned because more cool sequels to really good classic movies and TV shows are coming. Now, not all of my videos that of this Halloween season will be exactly sequels, but most of them will. So I hope you enjoy them and enjoy what's coming up. So please support me by hitting the subscribe button if you haven't done so, and by hitting the like button. We'll see you all next time, and don't forget, everyone, be hopeful. A really big thank you to all my Diamond tier patrons: Jerry D, Stacy L, Scott R, Citizen Kane 359, Jennifer P, David D, Kevin K, Sally N, and Vito L. If you want to be on this list or receive exclusives as a great way to support the channel, visit my Patreon description below. Thank you.